All
Yep.
right, before we kick this off, this is an episode of the podcast. I might do a more formal intro. We're early right now, so shout out to Michael here for joining early. But this is the Syncrets To Success podcast. This is a podcast sharing things about sync licensing as I'm learning about trailer music and music business and networking and all things music related. This podcast is sponsored by the great team over at ASTS who provide plugins and things for us to use. And you can check out this podcast on YouTube, Syncrets To Success. And at some point, I'm going to bring it over to the podcast platforms, but right now it's just on YouTube. This episode was supposed to be featuring Morgan McKnight, but she had something come up last minute from the PMA, and unfortunately she can't make it. We will reschedule that, and we'll let people know when that is rescheduled. So right now I'm just chatting with Michael. We're talking about conferences. We were going to talk about the PMC Production Music Conference, which is I don't have the dates for that. I think in September. Michael may be going to the Taxi Road Rally, which is also September. When is that?
That's in November.
In November. Okay.
Yeah, 7 to 10.
Uh, I will be working. I'm working on a couple panels for the Audio Engineering Society. So there's a lot of conferences coming up, even in the fourth quarter. An AES conference will be in New York in October, so next month. So yeah, there's a lot of things coming up. And then I think I'm going to San Francisco for a conference in December. So yeah, never. I looked at someone put out a schedule, and it didn't even include every conference, but there's at least one music conference that's related to sync or production music every month, except for July. I think except for July. Um, there was one conference every month on the schedule, either virtual or in person. Most of the in-person ones are in LA, for better or worse. But
Yeah.
have you been to Taxi Road Rally before?
Yeah, I've been there last couple of years and
Oh,
found it really engaging. Lots of fun stuff going on. The funny thing happened last year. They were doing they do a listening session as the last session,
yeah.
and somebody started playing a pretty heavy metal kind of piece, and there was a guy in the audience who does the deep guttural throat kind of singing
Oh,
and
wow.
your
Okay.
really hard metal kind of stuff. And he just started singing. And
Mhm.
then somebody said, throw him a microphone. So they threw
Yeah.
him a microphone. He got up on stage for, a minute and a half and just rocked the crowd. It was amazing. It was just completely
Wow.
impromptu. And, so you never know what can happen at these things. It's always surprising. Yeah.
Yeah, meeting for me it's been great connecting with collaborators, musicians, and of course music supervisors, sync libraries, sync agents, and then just seeing people who you've heard their music or seen their name on a show. It's like, oh, that's you that did that
Yeah.
song so it's just great connecting with these artists at these events. It's just a different vibe when you see them in person. You get to absorb their personality. YouTube is great, Zoom is great, but then you get to be at one place and you can go hang out, go catch a band or go out
Right.
to a bar or get some food or something. And that's where a lot of those relationships and the networking start to build.
Yeah, that's something that happens at the road rally a lot there's a bar area there and everybody hangs out there after all
Yeah.
the sessions and you just get talking to people and I wound up doing some drum tracks for a guy I met there, another
Nice.
guy I loaned him my laptop so he could play a CD
Oh, wow.
for Robin, I'm gonna blank on her name, famous lyricist, does gives advice on lyrics and stuff. Um,
Okay.
but he was like, I have a CD, but my it won't play in my player. And I'm like, well, here, have my laptop, and you do stuff like that for people. Yeah, that builds relationships. It's
Yeah. So wait, someone, this is last year,
yeah. Last year,
someone
uh,
brought a CD to a conference.
right.
And then two, you have a laptop. I haven't had a laptop that had a CD player in it
Yeah.
probably in 7, 8 years.
Well,
Um,
this one's from 2010. It's still going strong.
yeah.
But I take it out because if I lose it, well, it's no great shakes. I don't have a bunch of stuff on it,
Mhm.
and but I can still VPN home or whatever I need to do. And but yeah, it had a CD player in it, and so we were able to set that down in front of her and say here, and it worked out great. So yeah,
Yeah.
now we got some
Yeah.
people coming in here.
Yeah. Let me see. Are they come on in, everyone? Luke, Shane. So for those who missed the message, unfortunately, uh and we'll get started officially in a few minutes. Morgan let me know that she's unable to make it, so I was like, hopefully we'll reschedule. She said possibly next weekend. So I don't know what's going on her end, but just keep her in your thoughts if you can. But what we'll do is we will have a chat. So if you were only coming from Oregon, no hard feelings. Have a great day. You can peace out. But if you want to have a chat, we can just have a great sync chat. This is recorded, so if you do come off mute, just know that will be an episode of the podcast. And I'm just talking with Michael here about uh, music conferences and networking. So we were talking about the Taxi Road Rally. Someone did mention about putting up a poll in my group, which I might do on the Facebook group for those who aren't in there. You can join the Facebook group for free. We're getting close to 3,000 members. Forgot you see that icon there. Obviously, you see what account I'm using. But this is Facebook group. We have music supervisors in there. We have music creators, composers, producers, and I'm gonna put a poll up probably next week of people going to conferences. So if someone wants to meet up with someone or someone needs, they're looking for someone to room with, split costs for a Uber or hotel or whatever, it'd be a great way to connect. Some conferences coming up. I know we were just talking about Taxi Road Rally, which is in November. There is the Production Music Conference, which we were going to talk to Morgan about. Hopefully that'll be next weekend now with the reschedule. That's in September. That's literally in 2 weeks. 3 weeks. It's September 24th. And then I'm also working on some panels for the Audio Engineering Society, which is October 8th through 10th. That will be in New York. Taxi Road Rally is in November in LA. PMC is in September in LA. And then the Audio Engineering Society, October 1 will be in New York. So some things coming up. That's one, at least I was telling Michael earlier, there's at least one conference every month. At least this year, there was one every month, either in person or virtual, every month except for I want to say it was July that there wasn't. So I've seen some of these conference calendars. I actually had one myself. I did one last year. I didn't put one out this year, but I did a like Excel spreadsheet that had a bunch of conferences, music related, that were most of them were in LA. Some were you had like Whoop It Up in Chicago, and you had some that were overseas in other countries. So there are conferences all over. It's just finding the right ones, and of course, getting a budget to go to these places. I do as many virtual ones as I can, and that's a great way to connect. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, we are right at time. I did start. We started a few minutes early. I logged in. Hey Luke, I see you on the call. And also, again, this is an episode of the podcast. This podcast is sponsored by the great team over at ASTS. They make some great plugins for us to use. If you check out this podcast on YouTube, check the links in the description, and you can find discounts to get some of their products. They just released a great plugin I got to do a review of called Galvanizer on their site. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, you want to talk about anything, feel free to either come off mute or drop it in the comments. And I will drop the link to the podcast in the chat also. Share. Copy. There we go. What is everyone working on project-wise, music-wise? Anything that you can talk about?
Well, I just finished somebody told me it's acid house, but for me, it was just trying to experiment with doing something electronic, dance music, something. And I got my daughter to sing the vocals on it. And yeah, it turned out really, really great. I got a really good feedback on it from 52 Qs. And so I'm just looking for other ways to get it out there and get people to listen to it and stuff. So.
Yeah, and if you're trying to get it into sync, it would be finding those libraries. No, ChatGPT can really be a friend. Like go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, I make acid house music. What are some sync libraries that specialize in
Specialize in
placing?"
that, yeah.
Uh, and I see people joining. As you're joining, if you missed the message, Morgan unfortunately let me know a few minutes ago that she's unable to make it today. But we will see if we can reschedule for next week. So again, if you came from Morgan, unfortunately she won't be here. No hard feelings if you want to peace out and enjoy your day. Luke says Crime Show music album, just finished an orchestral hip hop album. Try Sync Savvy GPT. Luke, what is Sync Savvy GPT? Is that the one you created? And do you have to have I'm looking up now. Do you have to
Hey, can you
have
hear me?
Yep. Is that Luke?
Okay. Yeah, that's the one that I created that's specifically for sync licensing.
Nice. I am. And do you have to have a paid ChatGPT account for it?
No, they actually opened up all the modules to the free account now.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Okay, so
Yeah,
I am looking at it now. You know what? Let's do some show and tell.
because I actually made it and then canceled my subscription just because I really wasn't utilizing it to the full extent. And then right shortly after that, they announced that they opened up all the modules for the free account.
So
So I was super excited about that.
can you see it right now?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so what am I doing with Sync Savvy? This is going to be a Sync Savvy episode then, or a Sync ChatGPT episode. What are we doing with Sync Savvy?
You just ask it anything specific. There's some starter questions, obviously, right? That
Mhm.
I kind of created for people like show me a list of trailer music production companies and ask it anything you'd really want to know about sync licensing. Like you can even ask it about entertainment attorneys, sync agents,
Okay,
um,
so
production music companies.
we're gonna go where's my chat? I don't know.
Yeah,
Did I
put
lose
it
my
through
chat?
the ringer.
We're gonna go what was the question you wanted me to click on? The 20, that one?
Yeah, the top right. Let's just check it, and make sure it's still working right.
All right, so these are the preset questions. If anyone has, here's one that I'm working on. David shared a link there in the chat. Shane says, 16 tracks for new crime show spinoff. Oh, that's dope. Currently working on tension for well-known shows, some rock hip hop songs for sports opportunities submitted. Exciting time. Yeah, that's a lot, Shane. Looks like you are staying busy. I just got a request last night for a custom trailerization, which I love to hate doing. And then I'm up for hopefully I'll get it a composer for an upcoming Netflix show. So fingers crossed for that. Uh, I don't I technically separate composing from sync. Someone tells me it's the same thing, but composing for a show, I don't consider, like Hans Zimmer a sync musician. Uh, but yeah, Bridgerton, I have way too many submissions for Bridgerton. But I didn't do what uh, some people do is that they create, using the virtual instruments and things. But I basically reached out to a bunch of string players. Let's see who we got here. Where do you submit for something like Bridgerton? So I got the brief. That was a huge brief. That was basically a cattle call. For something like Bridgerton, you have to find the libraries that send out briefs. In my case, I don't know about Loose Case. In my case, I got the brief from about 4 different libraries. And it's, for me, either choosing which one to go to. Yes, total cattle call. They'll probably get hundreds of submissions. So that's really a shot in the dark. I went a step further and I know the music supervisor, and just went directly to the supervisor. So there you go. So if I know the supervisor of a show, I'll just go directly to them. It's the same music supervisor for like Grey's Anatomy and some other shows. So, and you get to know these music supervisors by going to these events like we mentioned. Like Production Music Conference, which is September 24th, AES, which I'll be helping with, which is October 8th through 10th. Trying to do like one sync panel, and then one panel will be more mixing related from 5 of the top mix engineers in the game. And then Taxi Road Rally, I'm not part of this, but this is not November 7th through 10th. Is that this year's dates, Michael? Or is that last year's? I see 23
Yeah,
here.
that's this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in LA or if you're in Taxi, I think if you're a member, you automatically get
Yeah,
a
you get 2
ticket.
free tickets,
You get 2
and
tickets,
yeah, so you can
but
bring a
you don't.
guest if you like.
But you don't get. They don't pay for like flight and hotel and all that. So there's that. So
They do a really cool thing where you can have lunch with a bunch of music supervisors, music library owners.
oh,
Um,
nice.
you sit down, you have a nice meal, and then they all rotate, and so you get to sit with 10 or so people and ask questions, get advice, offer up. They're usually taking a thumb drive or something. They'll go through and listen to stuff. It's a good opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And let me know if you can see now the chat GPT. So we have 20, we
Yep.
have APM music. Let's see if we can go through some of these. APM is uh, from what I believe, I don't think you could submit directly to APM. APM is basically a conglomerate of a bunch of libraries. So you can submit to libraries. If you are a library owner, you can work with APM and they'll sign your library, but you have to have at least hundreds of tracks, if not way more. Some of these libraries have thousands of tracks, so some of these other ones are probably under APM Music. Same with ones like Warner Chappell Music. I don't know if they work directly with music composers, creators, producers. It's more like they sign libraries, people with catalog. Extreme Music specializes with composers like Hans Zimmer. Extreme Music was founded by Hans Zimmer, so that's what we're up against. Extreme Music is a Hans Zimmer curated, or his team, of course, production sync library. Audio Network, I've heard of them. I haven't worked with them. Universal Production Music is similar to APM and Warner Chappell. Those are sort of like the big three. Then you have, or four, you have Sony BMG, if they still exist. Killer Tracks, I've seen their name. Again, you see that's Universal, so they would be under Universal. Warner Chappell, I mentioned. Position Music, I haven't worked with them yet. I've seen their stuff. I wouldn't mind working with Position Music because they get a lot of placements. 5 Alarm, I've worked with 5 Alarm through other companies. So again, not directly to 5 Alarm. West One and Megatrax, I've heard of them, haven't worked with them. Sonaton, I've heard of them. I think aren't they based in Europe somewhere? Maybe someone correct me there. Epidemic, I've heard of them. With Epidemic, I believe they are a subscription model for some shows. So I stay away from ones that are like, you pay $20 a month, you have access to our whole catalog. I might be wrong, but I think that's what Epidemic Sound is. Media Music, one of the first trailer libraries that came up with my radar. I don't know how long they've been in existence, but I think they're one of the earlier ones. Twisted Jukebox, I'm not too familiar with them. First Com, not familiar with them. BMG, used to be Sony BMG. I don't know if they dropped the Sony. But heard of them. They're similar to the APMs. Also, Bleeding Fingers, another Hans Zimmer entity. You might have heard of them. You might have seen their names. They do a lot of shows and stuff. The output needs more tweaking. I'll work on that. Oh, that's Luke. This is again, Luke. Can you drop a link to this here in the chat? Here, people are asking for the link to. This is the Sync Savvy ChatGPT. You can get it for free now. You used to have to pay for it, but now it's free. Sonic Librarian. I've heard of them. Music Bed. I would stay with our FlixTrack. You mentioned here. So if I say yes to, would you like this in the spreadsheet format? Will it create the spreadsheet here, Luke? Let's see.
Yeah, you just have to ask it to put it in a spreadsheet or Word format, and it does create that for you to download.
Okay. We'll make sure if mute participants continue. It says analyzing, and we'll see what it will spit out for us.
Yeah, that's what it does. It takes it and then it analyzes it with some Python scripts, and then it will put it into a document.
Starting download. We'll see what that download looks like. Let me see if I say create a spreadsheet here of the information.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of killer prompts that I created.
Okay, so it'll do the spreadsheet within the ChatGPT itself.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And if you haven't done this before, this is where you can be really you can have a lot of fun with ChatGPT because it does a lot. And what we can do, we'll make this a ChatGPT episode. I will show you how I'm going to drag this to the other window. If I drag this over, do you still see ChatGPT?
No, it disappeared.
It disappeared.
I got to share the other screen. I'm going to drag it to my main screen.
Hey, Marcus,
Yeah.
Real quickly, will you be able to share this Excel document after the session?
So I'm going to share this. This Zoom will be live on YouTube. This will be an episode of the podcast. So what you can do is you can go into YouTube. You can watch all this stuff. But if you go to this ChatGPT, there was this question here that Luke has as one of the preset questions.
Okay.
When you click that question in ChatGPT, it'll at the very end, it'll say you want it in spreadsheet. You can say yes and then download to your computer.
Now, is there a link specifically to Luke's setup here?
Luke
No,
shared
it's just in the ChatGPT store. If you go into your free account and then just look up the apps like in the ChatGPT store, or type in Sync Savvy, it'll pop up.
Okay, I didn't know that either.
I found it with a quick search too. Sync Savvy GPT, found it right away.
Just on Google. Okay, so Sync Savvy, SAVVY. So yeah, Luke, whatever bots you use to design this is pretty fun. So I'm gonna dive in to show you. Let's try this one. Create a
Lots
chart
of hours on this.
The column should be, let's see, name of trailer library, genres of trailer music, and what was the other one? Website. which
Yeah,
Hey,
we'll see.
it'll do it too.
one quick point here. Could you talk about what constitutes a trailer queue versus a sync queue?
There you go.
Yeah, so when we talk trailer music, it is music that has typically follows a three-act structure. Not always, but it is very dynamic. It's almost like scoring a film in 2.5 minutes. You start off with a slow build, and then you might have a break, typically every 30 to 45 seconds. And these rules can be broken, but typically every 30, 45 seconds, there is a break in the trailer music track. Um, so you'll have a trailer music track, then you'll have, 30, 45 seconds, then a break. Um, and then you can go to like what's called Act Two. Um, and that would be like a little bit more of a build, some tension. Maybe you'll have some pulses and engines going, like things that are more rhythmic. And then the final act, typically act three, all the percussion and everything, the big finale of the trailer. And there might be like some people call it act four or like an act three, part B, an ending where it's like everything is just loud and percussive and fun, or they can end it with something that's more mellow, similar to the act one, just more like the intro at the end. So there are different lanes for trailer music. What I like to do to study trailer music, let's see, where did I go to trailers? So I go to YouTube every week, usually every couple of days, and I look up trailers this week. And there are different playlists. I usually look for ones that are like 20, 30 minutes. Some of them are like an hour. And I take that time and just listen. Sometimes I watch them, but if I'm like driving or something, I just listen to the music, see what's the current trend in trailers. So there's some of these websites every week they're doing them. Some of them every month. This one was just posted 5 hours ago. So, and you can follow these channels. I just look for the trailers this week on YouTube, and then, it's like, hey, okay, which one is recent? This is 5 hours ago, so maybe I'll listen to this today and see what's the latest and greatest in the trailer space, just to keep my ear fresh. So that's sort of a resource for that, for trailers, YouTube. If for sync, you're not really seeing those sync references on YouTube. Like trailers, you'll see those on YouTube. For sync, you'll have to go to something like uh, iSpot TV, or I guess you could go to TuneFind. If you're not familiar with those, we'll say TuneFind. I could say, hey, what was used in the Umbrella Academy? Maybe they're working on the next season of that, or Bel Air. I really want to get some music on Bel Air. So let's see what music was used in the latest season. You can go back to season one, but maybe I want to see what's in the latest season because maybe this is a different musical direction. And let's say the last episode, which I haven't watched yet, episode 10, these are the songs. There's some links there. So now I can play these as references for sync. So you have to find those resources. And then the other one for commercials is iSpot TV. You can go there and you can say, hey, this week's most seen ad. So maybe you want to play that and see what music was used in that. They spent $2 million on that ad. Maybe they, took 10%, 5% of that, maybe $100,000 of that was used for the music, maybe even more. So if that was the most seen TV ad, that could be a good reference point for the music you want to create if you want to focus on advertising. There is a way to search here for ads. Let's just search for top spenders. So this actually, I've never really dived in on this site. Top spenders in TV advertising. So how do we find out the companies that are reaching out to these companies to get music for their ads? So these are just resources you can use. I've never dived in on this, so then I'm like, maybe I should get it. I don't want to get an email. But
One other quick question here.
yeah,
This is all new to me. Why is it that trailers are composed by different composers than the original film? That's always intrigued me.
So I've seen in the interview, Hans Zimmer said trailer music is the hardest music to make. And you would think, someone like that could dive in on that. Of course he could if he wanted to, but trailers definitely takes a different mindset with people composing the film, because the film could be 90 minutes, 2 hours, and in some cases 3 hours of music building over time. You start with a theme, that's at the first minute, that could be fully developed over 3 hours, and then you have different scenes and things. So the trailer editor has to take this, scenes from this 2 hour film and get it down to 2.5 minutes without spoiling anything in the film. So how do you do that? And to try to do that seamlessly with music that's already in the film might be kind of hard unless you already have a piece in the film that has that uh,
All right,
those
so why
builds
don't they
and
go
those.
back to the original composer and say, in addition to the original music, we need you to do like a brief or a
So
summation.
they in the before times, they did a long time ago, let's say maybe 20 years ago, they would either they might not go to the composer, but they would just use music from the
Right.
film
They would
for
just
the
do an edit.
trailer. At some point, and I don't know when or where, but there is a podcast that you should check out if you're interested in trailer music. It's called the Trailer Music Therapy. Is it called Trailer Music Therapy Podcast? Not Trailer Music Therapy Podcast. They have a group. Yeah, Trailer Therapy Podcast. It is run by Brian Ewan from Ghost Rider and Brian McKinney from Brash, I think. Two big trailer companies, and they dive in on some of these aspects of trailer music. There's another
Awesome.
one.
Awesome. Thank you.
There's another podcast called, can't think of the name of it. I have to check my podcast app. They have a lot of episodes, but they basically outline the history of trailer music, and it's called Trailer Geeks, and Teaser Gods. I've spent about a year binge listening to this. It's gonna have a bunch of episodes. Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods. This is where they bring in trailer editors and owners of libraries. They're at episode 113. Is that the latest one? So you have a lot of content
Could
to
you
catch up
pull
on.
back the header for a second? I'll screenshot it. Perfect. Right there.
Yep.
Dude, saying it for a sec.
But
Perfect.
if you look up Trailer Geeks and Teaser Guides on uh your podcast, and I listen to a bunch. I don't really listen to albums and music. When I go out, I'm listening to podcasts, either sync podcasts or trailer podcasts.
Okay.
I did another episode of, I can't remember the name of the site now. I did an episode on my podcast of a platform that you can use to look up podcasts. So podcast finder, I don't know what it was called. Listen Notes. I did a whole nother episode on this, but if you go to Listen Notes and let's say you're interested in trailer music, just type in trailer music and it will show you podcasts or episodes. You can narrow it down based on trailer music. So I've never heard of music and meaning, but let's go to podcasts just overall. And now trailer, I've heard of this. I've listened to a lot of these. I like Richard Prin. He check out his YouTube page. He actually reveals how he created some of the trailer music that he created. He uses Logic Pro, which I like. And then he also has courses you can pay for, but I just watch his YouTube stuff and listen to his podcast. Trailer therapy, as I just mentioned. I haven't heard of IBM. I haven't heard of some of these, but you can go to this site, Listen Notes, and that'll be sort of a way where you can search. For example, you can go to what I did in my episode. I was looking for a specific supervisor's name, and I looked up their name to find podcasts that they did an interview for. But if you type in music supervisor, you can find episodes, interviews with them, or episodes with them. You can type in a name like Joel. I don't know if he does many interviews. Joel C. High, who was Tyler Perry's music supervisor. Not Joel Osteen. We'll say Joel C. High, or Joel. I don't think he does a lot of podcasts, but stay tuned because I'm hoping for those, speaking of music conferences, hoping to have Joel as a panelist. I haven't said this before yet at NAMM for if I only have one panel, it's going to be a music supervisor panel. So I'm hoping to have him as a panelist. So far, it seems like that'll be a pretty good deal. Along with probably 4 or 5 other music supervisors. So stay tuned. All right. But yeah, there's something for you. You got the Trailer Geeks teaser guides. You have the iSpot TV. You have the Tune Find. You have the YouTube trailers this week. So all those resources and assets can be, this is just all research to figure out, hey, if I want to try to get music on the show, what does it sound like? Go to these sites. Or if I want to try to do music for ads, what does that sound like? Or what companies are spending money? Or maybe they use all their budget now and they're broke. So maybe they're done for the year. So you can draw your own conclusions, but again, this is all research and let me check these comments. So Logic, I use Logic. Luke says just like scoring to picture. Let's go back to here. So you see the chart that it created. Trailer Music Library, Immediate Music, which we also saw in the 20 production music libraries up there. You have Audio Machine, Two Steps from Hell, Position Music, Brand X, Really Slow Motion. These are specifically now some of them also do sync or production music, but these are ones that do trailer music. Tells you the genres they do, and then you can see the links there. So I've heard of some of these. I've heard of Immediate, Audio Machine, Two Steps from Hell, Position, Brand X, Really Slow Motion, Audio Machine. I've heard of all. I haven't heard of End of Silence. I've heard of Giant Apes. Heard of Dose Brains, Ghostwriter. I just mentioned them. I've heard of most of these. I haven't heard of Sub Pub or Epic Score. Not to say that those aren't legit ones. Again, my prompt said libraries within the last year. Also, that could be take that with a grain of salt because I don't know the current algorithm for ChatGPT, but I know in the past ChatGPT only had memory up to 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, so up to 2021 or 2022. So this might only be relevant for if I say last year, it might mean from 2021 or 22. But either way, you can go to their site, check them out. So for example, so let's go to Audio Machine. There we go. Audio Machine, they make some really great music. They have trailers, advertising, contact. So you can see they did some of these trailers here, maybe some stuff you've heard of, like the Batman. You can see some of the networks they work with, and they have this contact here. So what you want to look for is, if you were interested in working with them, is there a way where I can say, where can I send you music? Micro licensing or music. Let's see if we can find it on this page. This is where we can only listen to music. So if I don't see anything directly that says, hey, send us music here, then I would go to their contact page and write them a message and say, hey, I'm interested in being a composer on your roster. How would I go about doing that? And let's go back to ChatGPT. Colossal, Sensit, Confidential. So yeah, any other questions? I'm missing the comments here. Trailers are run by the ad company that works with. Yes, that's Luke. So another difference between composers and trailer music composers is how they get paid. So the composer for a film will typically get paid from the production budget of the film, and the composer of the trailer, along with the trailer house, will typically get paid from the marketing budget of the film. And some of these films have, huge marketing budgets. So the largest I've seen, not that I've landed, the largest quote I've seen was for $500,000. And obviously that would be split, more than likely 50-50 between the composer and the trailer house. But I often see six-figure quotes, just not 500, usually 250, 100. And those are for those AAA blockbuster films. And then there'll be like smaller ones, 50, 100, 20,000. And sometimes, oftentimes, I don't see any, there's no number. It's like, hey, we need this trailer, trailer music for this thing. If it's a custom trailer, maybe they'll have a bigger budget, but they also, for trailers, typically maybe two or three composers might land it. So if it's a big film, there might be 10, 15 trailers for it. If you're lucky, you'll have a teaser trailer maybe a year before it comes out. Then as they're launching the campaign, you'll probably have 2 to 3 main trailers. If it's a big enough film, they will have specific trailers for certain countries. So they'll have like the Asian trailer or the UK trailer. Then there might be trailers for specific social media platforms. So the Instagram, version, or the YouTube trailer.
Once
Not really
again,
YouTube, but
it's the Fingaz, DAFINGAs.
I'm hearing myself. Am I in the Twilight
That
Zone?
was me. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm gonna mute. I'm gonna mute.
I use Finale. Michael says I use Finale. So RIP to Finale. Actually, didn't Finale? I think they're trying to work out a deal with Dorico. I hope that's public news. Oh well. If not, it is now.
Dorico, yeah.
Dorico, yeah.
Yeah, it was $150. You can get the Dorico Pro. I went ahead and did it, and yeah, it's got a lot of great stuff with it. So I would recommend it, even though I've only been using it a couple of weeks so far. There's a few tricky things as to how to do things differently. So I'm learning that, but overall, I've been impressed by it. Yeah.
Yep. And one more, I'll go back to the differences between trailers. Luke says pay for a trailer and composer's pay is different. A film composer, they'll typically get a budget, to work with, and they can try to determine if that budget is enough to hire orchestrator, things like that. Some of the big ones, depending on the project, they negotiate a percentage of the income of the film. So Hans Zimmer, for example, probably can negotiate 5%, royalty on income from films he works on, which might seem low, but then when you start talking about, Ludwig Göransson and the films he's doing, or Brian Tyler, if you do a Marvel film, that's almost a guaranteed $1 billion blockbuster hit. 5% of that, I'll take that any day. And trailer music composers, you basically just get that upfront fee. If it's placed during TV broadcasts, maybe you'll get some streaming royalties, but typically all you're getting from the trailer is an upfront fee. And that is the risk with custom trailers, is that typically with a custom trailer, it's very limited in how it can be used. So if I do a custom trailer for a Harry Potter film and they want to use, the Harry Potter theme, I can't use that music on any other property other than Harry Potter. Harry Potter is a good one to do a custom for because they're always going to make another Harry Potter thing. There's going to be another theme park, another film, another video game. So properties like that, I don't mind doing customs for because I think there'll be more opportunities. So one of those IP like Legacy, Star Wars, pretty much all the Marvel superhero stuff, any superhero really, if they've been out for a decent amount of time, and they keep making shows. But some of them, I weigh like, is it worth doing, the custom for this if there might not be a part 2 or the next version of this won't come out for another 30 years. It's like, I don't know. As opposed to just doing, general trailer music where it can be used. I know a guy, there's an episode of Richard Prince podcast where he interviews Chris Davey, one of the big trailer music composers. And Chris Davey landed 3 trailers within 2 or 3 months last year from one track, the same track that he created. He created that track like 3 years ago. And of course, each trailer wanted their specific customization of that track, but the basis of the track was one track that he created 3 years ago, landed 3 trailers within 3 months. And I think it was the Craven, and it was maybe some boxing trailer, and then one other thing, or Kraken, one of those things. But find that episode of Richard Prin, Chris Davey. This episode here, Rich's Trailer Musical. Yeah, Chris Davies is another like composer I follow. Was it the Kraken? What was the name of this? Ruby Gilman. Is that the name of it? But yeah, you can check out that podcast. Yeah, it was called Teenage Kraken. And then it was used in, I think, 1 or 2 other films around that time. So yeah. Really just studying and learning. It's like, okay, I want to make stuff like this because this is what's landing everywhere. If you have any questions, let's see. Norman says, grew up as finale, feels like the end. Yeah, that came as a surprise. Like, man. Luke says, HP is a good time investment. Background instrumental plus trailer works really well for income after. And specifically for trailers, also, a lot of these trailer music, like neoclassical, I just did a neoclassical workshop yesterday. A lot of that is used in like the murder mystery trailers, but it's also used in TV sync. So it might land a big trailer and then, it'll be used in a TV show for a lot of trailers. Music is used in cooking shows. Not so much reality shows, but those cooking shows, they love trailer music. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to come off mute. Let's go back to ChatGPT. Yeah, neoclassical is probably one of my favorite. As far as trailer music, neoclassical and horror trailers are probably like some of my favorite to create. And so what I like to use ChatGPT for is creating, asking like very high level stuff. I also use it for social media, posts like, hey, I'm going to post about this, just write a caption for this post. But I like really literally have stopped thinking ever since ChatGPT came out, because I would say something like, okay, I'm working on a neoclassical trailer music project. Give me 20 unique neoclassical trailer music titles. And it'll spit out a list of, well, I don't know if his will. So there you go. Some titles, whether they're really unique or not, I don't know. But then I can try to say, okay, I like Echoes of Eternity. A lot of them become alliterative also. Or I like Symphony of Shadows or Aether's Requiem or Chamber of Light. So I can just go here between, or maybe I want Whispers of Silence, and then you can mix and match. But it at least gives you some ideas where I just have to think less and less. Because I want to put all my thinking towards creating the music. So now I don't have to try to come up with the titles, like, okay, we'll just call this one whatever of whatever, or something for something. So that is one way I use it, but there's a bunch of ways that I use it. I use it for scripts, like even my podcast, like the next episode of the podcast will focus on trailer music. Give me some bullet points to note during the episode. And I actually have different ChatGPT chats. So I have one for the podcast, I have one for track titles, and some for like sync events and things like that. So it just helps me organize things. And then if I need to put this in a formal document, I can either copy and paste it over to Google Docs, or I could have it make a spreadsheet, as you saw earlier. So use this stuff to your advantage. In this case, you're telling me how to do the introduction, some things to hit about Act 1, Act 2, and 3, as we mentioned earlier, some elements of effective trailer music, sound design for trailer music, neoclassical, which we also just talked about a little bit, some key players, you have composers. I don't know if Hans Zimmer is necessarily a trailer music composer, but Thomas Bergerson is. Some libraries, trends. So yeah, use this to your advantage. Let's see, make that, Luke says, ask it to make that a PDF or Word doc. Make that a PDF that I can download. Again, we are using, in this particular case, we're using, Luke created this Sync Savvy ChatGPT. If you look up Sync Savvy, I wonder, will it let me just paste it here? I don't know if that'll work, or if that'll go to mine. I don't know, but try that link. And it's free to use. So, but yeah, use ChatGPT. Like for ChatGPT also, like even for this, I would say make a social media caption announcing that Morgan McKnight, who unfortunately couldn't make it. For those who missed it, unfortunately, she was unavailable last minute. So we're going to try to reschedule till next week. Will be the next guest on the podcast. And I can go into more detail. I can say she's a executive director of the Production Music Association. But then it'll it threw in some emojis, it threw in some hashtags, and I can copy that, tweak it as I want. But yeah, social media. I mean, ChatGPT. Pretty much using that for everything. I think if you're on the paid plan, you get even more interactions or more integrations. You can use it to literally jump over. I use Canva, so you can use it to help design, Canva promo material, Canva artwork. I use some other AI platforms for yeah, paid has way more features. And I think it's only $20 a month. I just don't pay for it. I get by with the free. But yeah, any other questions? I do pay for Canva Pro. But you
Hey,
can also
was
use the
this
Canva free version. I do go live in the group, not for Q&A, but I go live in the group more also randomly. If you're not in the Facebook group, there's the Facebook group. But
Yep.
there's a previous episode with Luke that you can check out on the podcast on YouTube, talking about composing music. And there's actually an episode that I don't have. It's up in the Facebook group. I might bring it over to the podcast. This was last year. I did a interview with Michael Moss, one of the trailer music gurus that I follow in the space, incredible composer also. And I have some others lined up with some sync libraries. There's a company that does neighboring rights over in Europe that I want to do a chat with. So yep, stay tuned. Any other questions? We talked about conferences, networking, ChatGPT stuff, how to research companies and trailers. I do have another episode specifically going in researching like sync companies and trailer companies and how you can find out how you can pitch to them. We talked about TuneFind and iSpot TV. Yeah, there's a lot of resources that we can use. Even I didn't even know all that about iSpot TV, so this is a great resource for finding those campaigns that are top of mind right now. So now is not a bad time to work on Halloween music. It's okay. It's sort of bad, but not really. I'm still getting briefs. I haven't gotten as much Halloween briefs this year. Usually I get them 3 or 4 months ago. I haven't seen as many this year, and I think all the panels and interviews I've seen, there's still some ways to get back from the strikes. They're still trying to. I'm hearing that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but a lot of music supervisors they're working on less projects than they've ever worked on, and they're trying to get their way back. So yeah, I'm still seeing briefs. Trailers, they did die down for a little bit, but now I'm seeing way more. So I think everyone's trying to get to this fourth quarter push and get things out. Pond 5, I would stay away from Pond 5, Audio Jungle, all those subscription models. A lot of them now are just turning to AI. They are check your agreements. A lot of them are, if you do work with them. I might have like 1 or 2 tracks in Pond 5. Stay away from royalty-free libraries. Basically, that means that it's great for like somebody working on a film or a TV project. They can go to this library, pay them $20 a month, and have access to their whole catalog. But it's hard for you to make any income as a music creator on that side. So it's like on one side, it's good for people who don't really have a budget for custom music, custom composer, but on the other hand, not good for us as music creators. And a lot of those sites have started using AI to analyze their music catalog and just use AI to create similar music for projects. So there is, of course, there's a threat of AI. I do use AI, obviously, for some of the tech stuff. I've tested some of the AI music creation stuff. You see the lawsuits that are going around. So just be careful. I never, a lot of the libraries that I work with, they have writing in there or have added a clause in their contracts and agreements that state that you are not using generative AI, meaning AI to make the music that you're submitting to them. So if you are using AI to make music, I would say try not to. Now, is there a way to use AI in music? That could be another episode. I guess you could do something like use AI, create the idea, maybe turn the audio to MIDI and move the MIDI around and use another sound, things like that. So there might be creative ways to be inspired by AI, or even with like sample packs, just don't use samples. There's an AI that maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll show that tomorrow in the Facebook group. There's an AI that I just started testing from Audio Lab. I think it's AUDIA Lab, and they use AI. They have a couple AI programs. The one I've been using is called Emergent 2, and it creates drum one shots. So whether one shots created by AI are allowed in sync, I still don't know. But just testing that out for the company, it is out. You can buy that plugin. But want to see what this AI stuff is about. And there's some platforms out there that are testing it also.
I remembered my question.
See, if I just talk long enough, it'll come back to you.
What are your thoughts on putting your music out there before it gets signed by a library or music supervisor? I'm always kind of wary of putting it out there because if it's out on YouTube and then it gets signed and then they want to put that thing on YouTube and then there's a copyright strike, how do you avoid all that, or do you just put your music out there and not worry about it?
Yes and no. So I don't put as much music out now, at least on my own. It's either like a library put it out. But starting out, I would create, like, for example, I created a neoclassical trailer music project maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And it was not for a library. It was, what's crazy, it started out, it was supposed to be for a library. The story of that is I created 3 of these tracks to pitch to he put out a cattle call. He was trying to finish up a neoclassical album, and they were going to hire like an orchestra over in Europe somewhere to play the thing live. So I created like 3 ideas for the album. And at first, he told me, he was like, "Hey, my guys, listen to it. You're like in the top, 20, 10%." But then by the end of the weekend, I didn't get it. And I was like, "Wait, what happened? I thought I was in the top 10%." He was like, they got like so many submissions. So they had to narrow it down. So I took those 3 ideas I created for that and put them on this project, added 2 more, and made a 5-song EP. Then I used this as a cattle call or resume for other libraries where I could send this to them and say, "Hey, I make neoclassical trailer music." And this was before I used Disco. I use Disco now that I have everything laid out in Disco.
Right.
So I sent them a link, to my neoclassical trailer project. And I would tell them up front, like, these are unavailable. Or I wouldn't say unavailable. I try to stay away from the negative. try to keep things positive. So I would say something like, I can create something like this for you, and not necessarily these. So that's a way where you can release stuff on your own, and maybe you can still pitch your own stuff non-exclusively, but be ready to work. If you don't do it that way, if you do create a project for a library, if I created a 5-song EP to pitch to a library, then I wouldn't post it on streaming platforms. I would create it, send it to the library,
Right.
maybe give them a week or two to respond, and then if they don't respond, then I send it other places. But or follow up with them after 2 weeks. Say, hey, did you get this? And if they're like, hey, we're busy at this time, follow up. Depending on their response, you have to figure out how to navigate that. Other than that, if I'm creating something for a specific album, if they send me a brief for an album, of course I'm going to create that for them. And then if it doesn't land on the album, if they don't want to sign it, then I can move about the country freely with whatever I want to do with that track. So I don't know if that helps.
Well, yeah, and I guess really to get the main point is if I put something out there, does that impact its licensability for music libraries? Are they going to say, well, this thing's been out there and it's all over it's all over the Spotify's, Pandora's, YouTube. Does that detract from their desire to sign that thing because it's already been out there?
I would say for sync libraries, most of them, it depends. So sometimes it's like, hey, I've seen briefs where they want music that is out on Spotify. Maybe it has some traction, maybe it has an artist or something on there. And as Luke mentioned, you just ask the library that you're working with. Or if you have music that's already out, it's like, hey, I have music that's perfect for this opportunity that you have. It is on streaming platforms. I would say avoid as much as you can, avoid doing YouTube Content ID. So when you upload to Disco or TuneCore, any of those sites, typically they have a button where you can say, collect YouTube Content ID. I would stay away from that only because if the song gets into a TV show or, sync library, they want to manage that side of it. But yeah, ask the publisher if you're not the publisher. But I know artists, I follow a big artist. I actually had him on a panel at NAMM this year. His name is Vo Williams. He's an artist. He releases music on streaming platforms, and then that same music gets synced like over and over and over again.
Okay.
So maybe not as big of an issue if you work with a sync agent, and definitely not really an issue if you work with a music supervisor, depending. In some cases, like I was working on a recent project where some of the it's a music supervisor for a show, and some of the music that I pitched has already been released and some of it wasn't. So I asked, was it a problem? So just ask them, is it a problem if some of the music was released? And they said, it's not a problem for the music that's already released, but for the music that was unreleased, hold off on releasing it, because if it lands on the show, sometimes they want to use the show as the calling card, like, hey, we broke this artist, we broke this song. So if it's not released and you think you might get it on a big show, maybe hold off on it. Use the show as the, when people watch this episode or see the scene, they're going to bring up their Shazam, or if they watch it I watch shows with captions. So typically in the subtitles or captions, it'll say now playing Deja Vu by Easy McCoy. And that's the song for Bel Air. You see that on every episode. So then people might look that up and then stream the song, and now you get streaming numbers. So yeah.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yep. Luke says, if you pitch for sync agents, you can release some DSPs, sync agents, companies that pitch, or music supervisors. If you are not the publisher, ask first. The library usually handles that. And Tommy Prophet, he's another incredible composer, producer. He probably has my favorite Christmas album. And he does a live performance every year, I think at the Grand Ole Opry. But his Christmas album, I think it's called Birth of a King, is insane. The live is even better than the album. And then he also has a drum library that you can buy. It's for your music creator. It is on sale right now. I don't have an affiliate link, or do I? It is in collaboration with Cinematic Tools. I haven't actually purchased it yet because I just got Decadence. I can't purchase too many plugins at once. One, because I have a wife, and the other is I just don't have time to learn, these different plugins and dive in. And I want to put them to use and use them in music. This is in collaboration with Cinematic Tools. I have way too many affiliate links. I don't know if that'll take you to the actual plugin, but if you use that link, unselfishly, or yeah, selfishly, I will get a kickback from Cinematic Tools. But Tommy's Percussion, I wish they called it Tommy's Toms. They didn't use me for their marketing, but oh well. It is more than Toms, but I do have that on the radar. And also, for if you're looking for plugins, Luke mentioned he has 1,600 free plugins. I used to do a lot of free plugins, not cracks, not illegal. That used to be the wave 15 years ago. But now there's a lot of great companies. Spitfire Audio has free plugins that you can use. KeepForce has free versions of their plugins you can use. Heavyosity has, free plugins you can use. I Piano Book. If I'm looking for something, I go to Piano Book first. Like, hey, I need a ukulele. Let me see if it's on Piano Book. All those are free. I have the most demos on Piano Book, and there was an announcement yesterday. Christian Henson is getting ownership of Piano Book back. So excited for that. But it's been a great way for me to connect with Spitfire Audio team when I was doing demos for Piano Book. What's the other? Orchestral Tools has some great free plugins. You can go to, maybe you can look up ChatGPT, say, hey, what are some high quality free string plugins that I can use right now? So yeah, there's just a lot. But if there's something you really want, like I'm a huge fan of KeepForce plugins, and their libraries are not cheap. They're getting earlier and earlier, so probably this year around Halloween or November. Black Friday deals will be, dropping, 50% off, buy one, get one free, 20% off, whatever. So if you know you want a library, maybe see if there's a Black Friday deal, you can get a discount on it. Save the money for the library for the full price, and then wait for a sale, and then that way you'll save up. So if you intend to pay $300 for this thing and it's on sale for $200, you have another $100 you can spread out for some other libraries, or maybe pay a bill or something. But Black Friday deals, yeah, I spent way too much. The last year, the year before, I think I didn't do anything Black Friday, but the years before that, it's like, okay, this year it's going to be my whatever year, KeepForce year. I'm going to get one plugin. I'm going to get this plugin. And this year, I want Tommy's Percussion. It's the cheapest probably it'll ever be. It's $139 right now. It's just I just can't do it right now. And yeah, that's the other thing, David. I have more than enough plugins, but somehow I keep getting more and adding. And then I also do plugin reviews for some companies, so or beta testing. And then you want to allocate the space. Like my drive management is like, I might do a plugin review for a company, and then I hate to say, like, I don't use every plugin. I don't use all the plugins I have. So around Thanksgiving is when I start purging the plugins. If I haven't used it in the last year, it pretty much is off the drive. I have another external drive that I put all the stuff on. But I have like a main 4 terabyte Samsung Shield. And then I have an internal drive on the Mac. But yeah, if I haven't used it in a year, it's pretty much on the chopping block. I've heard about the Waldorf microwave. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but heard about it. UAD Opal. Yeah, we could have a whole nother plugin chat of, that could be the next chat also. So yeah, if you're not in the Facebook group, because I got to end this in a few minutes, that's TS, my shortcut. It is Syncrets To Success. Join the Facebook group. I'll probably go in live tomorrow morning, probably from the kitchen, burning down the house. And we can have more of a conversation if you want to bring more questions. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Again, apologies via Morgan, but also for her not being able to make it today. We'll see if we can reschedule for some time that works with her schedule over the next week or so. And stay tuned for more chats and talks. And if you missed the podcast episode, let me drop that one more time. I gotta find the link. It is, or the podcast series, it's on YouTube. It's called Syncrets To Success is the name of the podcast. I am 88 episodes in, and this will be up on that podcast when I get it edited, hopefully over the next few days. So that should be the podcast link, I think. Let me make sure. If I click that, where does it go? Yeah, okay. So 88 episodes. The most recent ones are more of those reviews, more of those conversations, sharing the journey of things in life. So, but yeah, the first ones were sort of diving into the podcast. sharing some insights. I used ChatGPT for the script for the podcast for the definitely those first 30 days. So you saw how I do some of that. But yeah, all right, gotta go. Thank you all for joining the fun. Thank you all for being part of whichever communities you are part of, that we are part of, and stay tuned for more. And have a great weekend, everyone. All right, thanks.